Awesome, awesome, awesome. It looks like people are still coming in, but why don't we go ahead and get started? Thank you for your patience. So my name is Michael Myers, and I am the Associate Director for Inclusion and Diversity at Yale SOM. And we want to go ahead and welcome all of you folks to our SOM Perspective series, where we've had the opportunity to highlight different voices around SOM and really give prospective students a sight into what it's like to be a student, depending on which identity you may hold. And so tonight, we're going to dig deeper into the AAPI voices. And to do that, I would love to pass the mic over to some of my awesome friends who have taken some time out to be here with us to share maybe where you're from, where you were at before you started your MBA, where you're going. And why don't we pass the mic over to Taylor?
Hey everyone, my name is Taylor and I am from New Jersey. I went to Rutgers for undergrad. Prior to SOM, I was working at Deloitte in their government and public service sector. And this summer, I'm in Seattle interning at Microsoft as a product management intern. And it's also where I hope to be after MBA too. So I will pass it over to Eddie.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Taylor. So my name is Eddie Chen. I grew up in Houston, Texas. Went to school at UT Austin, studied chemical engineering. After school, I worked at Shell as a deep water wells engineer. Worked in operations, worked in engineering for roughly around 5 years. And yeah, now I'm in LA working for Amazon as a PM as well. I'll pass it off to Shubo.
Everyone, I'm Shubo. My family's living out near Philly in Pennsylvania right now. I went to Yale for undergrad, did boutique consulting in Boston coming back to SOM, and I'm at McKinsey this summer in their Stamford, Connecticut office. Happy to meet everyone and passing it off to Nathan.
Thanks, Shubo. My name's Nathan, and I grew up in North Carolina, but moved to New York City for school to do music and computer science. And I was there for like 6 or 7 years, working as a software engineer, most recently at Automatic, which is sort of the company behind WordPress and Tumblr. For this summer, I'll be in Amazon in Seattle, working as a PM, and then TBD what comes after that. So I'm really excited to be here with you all, and passing it over to David.
Hey everyone, my name is David. Prior to coming to SOM, I was raised in California, but I went to NYU for my undergrad. And after graduating, and actually during my college time, I was working on my startup. This summer, I am interning at Amazon over here in Seattle. And for next year, for APIA, me and Shuba will be the co-chairs, passing it along to Sid, who is also a member of the board next year.
Thanks, David. Hey, everyone. I'm Sid Gandhi. I was born and raised in New Delhi, India, and I moved to New York for my undergrad. Also went to NYU like David. And after my undergrad, I worked in consulting, focusing on tech strategy for 6 years. And my current internship is at Palo Alto Networks for the corporate strategy team. And post MBA, I would either go for corporate strategy within tech or impact investing, TBD, where I end up.
I appreciate that. TBD is an important term. However, we have determined how the event will go. And so let me let you know what that looks like. We're going to spend the first 30 or so minutes going over the questions that you folks have submitted. And this portion is going to be recorded, and you'll have the opportunity to revisit it, check out some of the things that we have online as you go throughout the process. And then what's going to happen is we're going to transition into a more intimate time where you folks will have the opportunity to unmute yourselves, navigate through unrecorded breakout rooms so that you can ask our students and awesome panelists any questions that might be related to whichever part of the process that you're most interested in. And then we'll come back together for a brief moment and dismiss for the evening. So with that, I have a really juicy question, one of the top questions, which is, why did you folks choose SOM? And as a member of this community, would you choose it again? I'll give you a second to unmute yourselves and decide who wants to go in first.
I can hop in and introduce myself really quickly as well. So
Forgive me.
hi everyone, I'm Anita. I grew up in Sunnyvale, California. I am currently in Houston at Hewlett Packard as a product management intern as well. So just with that background, I can also answer this question if that would be helpful. Okay. I'll start us off. So why I chose to go to SOM, that was a question, Michael? Yep.
Yes, and would you
Okay.
do it again?
Yes, I would 100% do it again. I chose SOM partly because I felt like it would be a good space for me to get to know everyone. For context, I went to a really small liberal arts college for undergrad. I went to Pomona College out in Claremont, California. And I also studied public policy with a focus in biology. So I knew that I wanted to be in a place where I could have that same level of connection with fellow students, and the mission was also important to me when it came to SOM. So for as much as we talk about business and society, I do think that is something that plays out in real life. And I wanted to be around people who were going to consider that as part of what they were doing in business school. So that's the short answer for me.
I can go next. So for me specifically, there were two big reasons. One was that SOM offers like an integrated curriculum. I knew I didn't want a very typical MBA where you just take B school classes, because I also was curious about impact investing. So to be able to take classes from different schools and Yale's so good at some of the other aspects outside of business, it was a big thing for me. Specifically, going to Yale School of Environment and taking some of the courses I'm really interested in was a huge draw. Secondly, it was the class size and location. Just because I lived all my life in cities with millions of people, I didn't want to be just one of the 700 or 800 students in an MBA class. So being part of a smaller class size and a smaller cohort was very important to me. And then also New Haven, it's a decently sized city. It has everything that you need. At the same time, it's not as overwhelming as sometimes New York can be. So that was a huge draw for me as well.
Yeah, I can hop in too. Just to echo Sid's points, the integrated curriculum is like huge, because I took like this computer music class that was in like the computer science department like last semester. Kicked my butt. It was really tough, but it was just an amazing experience to be able to do something not B school related and just like try like what is computer music, which I didn't even know before like taking the class. So that was just an incredible opportunity that we get like starting your spring semester of your like first year. Because you have some space to take electives, and then your second year is just completely open to do whatever you want across the schools. And then for AAPIA specifically, I think like this affinity group and club has just been a huge part of my first year experience. I've met so many people outside of my cohort because of some of the social events. And honestly, it's been one of the most fun clubs that we have and most fun affinity groups. It's very welcoming. They have so much programming planned for next year. And so it's just like a huge sort of like way for us to just meet people across campus. And I love the community. So it's a huge part of why I would say yes to coming back to SOM if I had to make a decision again.
Awesome. I love that you jumped in there and you mentioned all of those aspects, right? So the curriculum is definitely something that's very vibrant about SOM and the ability to sort of make it what you want it to be, right? And then the community is the second important part or most vibrant part of SOM, because it is a smaller community and there is a lot of ability for you folks to engage and even take on leadership roles and be a part of the different activities that are going on. And I've learned throughout this series that a lot of the affinity groups seem to work together at times, right? And all students in the body are able to go to some of these events and things like that. And that was a question that did come in at a high rate, is what is a hallmark activity from any of the affinity or student groups that you all love and can't wait to experience again?
David, I feel like you should speak.
There's
see
clearly
you
too many
over
to choose
there.
just one, right?
I never went to these events, but I know David has gone. So I've always wanted to go, but it never worked with my schedule.
Okay, yeah, I'll hop in here. So I think with the APIA community, one great thing is that there are other schools around us who reach out to us constantly and how we can collaborate with different events together. So Stern, Columbia, Harvard, there's all these different groups who've been reaching out to me and Shuba about creating some events. And one highlight was we all went down in New York. Probably maybe like 30 or 40 of us went down to New York, hung out, had great dinner, and we were able to like mingle with different people from CBS, Stern, Wharton, Cornell, and a little bit some people from Harvard came. So that was a pretty cool experience, just getting to know people outside of our school, and it was a very like social event. So I'm sure everyone enjoys great food, and having those conversations really was beneficial and fun for me.
And jumping on the flip side of that, in addition to collaborating with other business schools, we also collaborate with a lot of the other Asian groups within the broader Yale community, whether that's Asian Grads Network, which is specifically focused on Asian grad students, or the Asian American Cultural Center that focuses on programming for essentially everyone at Yale, from undergrads, grad students, faculty, and staff. And some of the smaller events that we've done have been a lot of family-oriented dinners, movie screenings, and we even had a couple of the mic nights. So looking forward to planning whatever events the people tell us they want next year.
I'll also jump in here. So one of the big things for that AAPI is really great at is the family circles. And so for me, that was one of the best parts of the organization, is just having a smaller community to really focus and getting to know each other on a more personal level. I guess in terms of like organized events, it's really just based on the family or the group, which I think we had roughly around 8 people. And then we organized like a dumpling night, we had a movie night, board game night. And that's a really good way to mingle just across the years of business school. All of us here are class of 23, but there's the class of 22, and of course the class of 24 that we're going to meet next semester. And for me, that was a really great way to get to know people more personally and through activities. So those were much more self-organized, but a really important part to the community.
Awesome. The family dinners sound superb, so I'm glad that we have those. And I love hearing particularly the aspects that you're able to reach outside of the SOM community, right? So Yale does, of course, intentionally design our programs in all the grad schools so that that can happen. But it's nice to hear that we can go throughout the different MBA schools and programs in general to connect and find community in those spaces. But with that, one of the questions that we hear often is, it sounds like there's lots of events and opportunities, especially in a post-COVID world, right? Or post-pandemic world rather, where, your schedules can get busy, right? And Taylor, I feel like you alluded to that a moment ago, but how do you balance your rigorous MBA program and all the other events and things that are being thrown at you for you to find community? What does that look like as a student?
I can take that one. And I'm essentially repeating something I heard when I attended one of these events. And I honestly completely agree with that now that I've finished my first year. But MBA essentially is balancing 3 different things. One is your job / networking that you would do. Secondly is your academia and whatever classes you're taking. And thirdly is everyone's here to form friendships outside of work, etc. So those are 3 things that you have to balance. And it's always going to be a balance. There's a lot in terms of academia that you can focus on. In terms of networking and recruiting, there's a lot that you can focus on. And there's 350 other students that you can be friends with. So it's always going to be a balancing act, and it's going to vary person to person in terms of what you focus on more. And it can also vary based on the time. At times, recruiting takes a lot of time. from your schedule, and at times you'll try to meet new people. So for me, it was just an act of balancing those three things, and it really varied based on what time of the year it was. And then as David pinged me, and I would repeat it, in academia, Yale has a non-grade disclosure policy, and proficient is sufficient is one of those things. So as long as you do decently well, you'll be fine. But at the same time, that makes sure that you're actually focusing on academia for learning and not for grades. So that's one of the great parts of, I would say, Yale.
If I could
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead, Taylor.
Yeah, I think once you get accepted, some piece of advice that other people gave me too was to kind of take time to reflect on your goals, kind of what Sid said. So I was able to quit my job in June before I started. So I had about 2 months to just kind of reflect, unwind. And what I did was I kind of wrote like an MBA North Star. And I was like, these are the 3 things I really want to get out of my MBA. And so any classes or clubs or leadership positions or things that I'm pursuing, like there's so much you could do, but at the end of the day, they're going to have to align with my goals. And anytime I would feel lost, I'd go back to my Post-it note on my wall, be like, oh, Taylor, these are the 3 things you really, really wanted to do. And I mean, one of my goals is like to make lifelong friends. So like Sid said, like socialization is a really big part of that. And I think sometimes that can just help provide you a little bit of clarity when you're like, do I do consulting? Do I do recruiting? Do I do banking? Like, what am I doing? I would go back to like why you came to business school and what you're trying to get out of it, because everyone's here pursuing different goals and have different priorities too.
Yeah, when Sim mentioned grades, I felt like I definitely had to chime in here. But yeah, the non-grade disclosure policy, I think, is actually really important. And the reason for that is, you know, at this point in time, you know, we've all gone through undergrad, you know, and most of us have gone through the workforce a bit. Yeah, and like Taylor mentioned, we all have different goals. And so having that flexibility allows us to really align like our priorities and cater to what exactly we want. So for example, for me, like I was caught between tech, also trying to do VC, and you know, one of my big plans is to go into climate tech in the future. And because of the non-grade disclosure policy, I was able to take on several part-time jobs to get that exposure in school. And so needless to say, you know, the grades were more, I guess, my strong points in school, but I was able to get that exposure because that's a priority I wanted to have while I was in at Yale specifically.
And on the social front, I think also there's just so many opportunities to meet people, even if you are caught up with recruiting. Like you still have your cohort, which would be like the people you take classes with. Then you have within that like your learning team, and oftentimes you'll see people in your learning team that you might not have met otherwise. And so there's definitely ways for people to just meet outside of like, you know, the like formal structures. There's just so many ways to just meet people. So even if you're caught up in recruiting or you're caught up in your part-time job or whatever, and everyone goes to school for different reasons, like there are avenues that people will meet each other. And I think that's one good thing that we have as like sort of like the cohort system is just, I have like a sort of home base for me to like just relax with and just like lean on for support. I think that's just a huge way for just meeting people too, because even then that's like 70, 75 people. That's a lot for me. And I think like just being close to 75 people is amazing in itself. So I just love that cohort-based system too.
I know a lot of people have chimed in on this question and we can move on soon, but I definitely wanted to plus one to what Nathan said. Personally, I'm a person with very low social energy, and I was very anxious about, you know, whether I would be able to sustain that amount of networking and meeting people. And to be honest, I think SOM has made that very natural feeling for me, and I've been able to take it at my own pace. So if anyone out there is worried about like, am I gonna have to meet like 75 people every day? Like the answer is you can absolutely do it at your own speed. And I've still come away from this year feeling like I've really gotten the chance to get to know people and meet people and know them quite well.
So thank you for all of those different perspectives. I was definitely taking notes on my end as well. Taylor, that advice I feel like is applicable to so many areas of life. So I encourage you to redo it once you graduate, right? Put that sticky note down, and as you go throughout your careers, revisit it. That's such an awesome takeaway. And Anita, I feel you. As an introvert myself, although most don't believe me. Well, actually, I shouldn't brand you as an introvert, but I kind of assumed that that's where you were going.
Yeah,
Okay,
I would say so.
People do not believe me, but trust me, I will crash after an event like this and take a long nap. So I appreciate all those different perspectives, and what you folks do as MBA students and all of the networking is quite incredible to observe. But one of the things that I wanted to hear that's really important from you folks is, as someone who focuses on inclusion and diversity, and we're bringing together this group of students, and we're about to go into these really authentic spaces where I'll hang back so that you all can freely talk. It's become increasingly important to me for you folks to share your stories and share those stories throughout the application process, right? And so one of the questions that we got was, how did you all convey the story of Anita or Shubo or David? Like, how did you convey who you were throughout your application? I wasn't calling on you specifically, just names that I saw first.
Michael, is the prompt the same as when we applied? What is the biggest risk you've taken? I believe was our prompt, right?
It is similar.
Biggest
Gotcha.
commitment. What's your biggest commitment you've made?
Okay, so I guess I can hop in for this one. So the story that I wrote about was how I took a 2-year gap break after my sophomore year of college to focus on my startup. So this was a pretty big junction in my life, because I could either go down the traditional 4 years of school, get an internship, or get a full-time offer, or kind of take this bet on myself. And so I want to relay that feeling and like idea that I had going through the entire process of making that commitment for 2 years, even though there was no guarantee that it would work out. I think fortunately for me, Yale liked my story, and so they offered me a spot. But it was very important for me to express kind of my rationale, my analysis, and kind of my learnings from the entire experience.
I can jump in too. I really struggled with figuring out what my story was going to be. I think I had a lot of imposter syndrome too coming in. I come from consulting, where a lot of people go to business school, and it was very easy to kind of be told and then also pigeonhole myself as like a stereotypical Asian woman from engineering coming from consulting, going into business school, needs to be perfect with her GMAT score and all that stuff. One recommendation I would have is to look at some of the support groups that exist. So I know there's like Consortium, MLT, Forte, MBA Launch. Like, these are really great programs that you can apply, and they will help you, guide you, and kind of help you with crafting your story. And then I think also, like, on your own time, I would kind of do like I guess like a life dump of literally a life dump, like personal and professional, just moments in your life that are significant or important to you. It could be stuff that you've put on LinkedIn, or it could be stuff that have just like personally impacted you, like adversities or joys or big wins or small wins, and then see if you can find like a through line through all of these meaningful moments in your story, and kind of craft like a cohesive, this is who I am, this is who I've been for a really long time. I have this like North Star goal again of my life and in my career, and my MBA is going to help me reach that North Star goal. And you can see through all the things I've been doing in volunteering or my work or my personal life that it's like truly and genuinely a part of who I am and what I'm interested in. And I think that's how you kind of manage like that balance of dreaming big, and then also making sure like the admissions committee is like, okay, this is also grounded in reality and something practical and reasonable that we could see you achieving in the next couple of years too.
And jumping in really quickly on top of what Taylor was saying, really take this time to do some introspection on why you want to get an MBA at all, why particularly at Yale. It's 2 years away from work with no income. It's a lot of money even with financial aid. And it does, you're taking a break from your working and social life, and you're going to be in New Haven, which sometimes makes it hard for people to visit. So short version is it's a big decision, and it's not really something you do because, oh, well, I've been working for a couple years, so I guess this is the next step. Really take some time to think it through. And as we said, everyone comes in with different goals. So figure out what your goals are and what you want to tell AdCom about it.
I would say also just in terms of the specific application, like for me personally, I wrote a really very deeply personal essay for Yale SOM specifically. When I heard the prompt, it was what I thought about. So it was what I chose to write. So I think definitely don't shy away from telling that story as genuinely as you want to. It's like something I guess my admissions officer knows about me that a lot of people don't know at this point. So I would say like, don't be afraid to express like what you truly want to in that application.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add is, of course, the essay you write is going to be deeply personal, and it's up to you if you want to share it or not. But if you really trust someone, some family or friend, having someone read it is definitely very helpful, and that's what I did. And I think when someone like that's not you reads it, they can sort of add things about you that you don't realize or recognize, and you can sort of weave that into your story because that's who you are. That's how the world has seen you. And that's something that you can weave into your story because there's only so much you know about yourself through introspection. I think there's elements of you that you're not aware of.
That is amazing. I appreciate all of that advice, first of all. And I speak for myself as someone who reads applications and all of my colleagues. Your story is incredibly important, right? And I think as you go through the market and you think about an MBA application, the whole process, sometimes it can be boiled down to these 3 points that everyone wants to hit home, right? And then sometimes that comes at the cost of not really exploring and being introspective, as all of our panelists have said today. But I think the beauty is you're here with us this afternoon and this evening, whatever time it is, wherever you're at. It's evening over here in New Haven. Know that we're human. So you're not just inputting an application into a computer and going to send it off into an abyss. Like, I'm a human. I'm going to read your application. I'm going to read that story. I'm going to be bought in and sold on the incredible person that you are, just like all of our students that are sitting around this camera. And authenticity is key. We can definitely tell that. So all the details that you think are important for us to know, own them and know that Yale is a safe space to share those. And so with that in mind, I'm going to thank our panelists. I appreciate us having this quick discussion and digging through some of these questions, but we're going to pivot. We're going to pivot into our breakout session portion. And you folks are going to be able to navigate. Our students will be grouped up in different rooms, but know that, you know, the room is open. It's yours. Unmute yourself, speak, ask your questions. I'm going to hang back and it will not be recorded. And we will reconvene in roughly 20 minutes.